Welcome to this deep dive.
Okay.
Today, we're going to be taking a look at Transrail Lighting Limited,
Okay.
which is an Indian company specializing in power transmission and distribution infrastructure.
All right.
And you've been kind enough to provide us with some excerpts from their draft Red Herring Prospectus,
Right.
a crystal report which analyzes the company and some other financial documents.
Yes.
And we are on a mission to help you really get to know this company, how they make their money, and their position in the market.
Sounds good.
So to start off, let's talk about their origin story.
Okay.
They were founded in 2008 in Mumbai,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't exactly a straightforward beginning.
Oh.
Yeah, it involved this thing called a scheme of arrangement,
Okay.
where Gammon India Limited, which was their previous holding company,
Mm-hmm.
transferred its entire EPC business,
Okay.
which stands for Engineering, Procurement, and Construction,
Right.
in the power transmission and distribution sector to Transrail.
It sounds like a pretty strategic move.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
It shows a real commitment to focusing on this specific sector
Yeah, definitely.
and building that expertise.
Mm.
And it seems like that focus has paid off, at least in terms of their global reach.
Okay.
They're now operating in over 50 countries
Wow.
across Asia, the
Yeah.
Americas, Europe, and Africa.
So not just a local player anymore?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Now, let's dig into their business model a little bit.
Okay.
It's actually quite diverse.
Oh.
Yeah, they're not just EPC service providers,
Okay.
handling the engineering and procurement and construction of power infrastructure.
Yeah.
They also supply engineered products
Okay.
for the power transmission and distribution sector.
Interesting.
So they're kind of involved in both the service side
Yeah.
and the manufacturing side.
That's really interesting. It's
Yeah.
almost like a vertically integrated approach.
Right.
Does that give them an advantage?
It's definitely something to consider.
Okay.
So they've constructed 34,654 circuit kilometers
Okay.
of transmission lines, which, to give you a sense of scale,
Mm.
is enough to circle the Earth nearly once.
Wow.
And on the distribution side,
Okay.
they've built 30,000 circuit kilometers of lines,
Mm.
and they supplied 1.3 million metric tons of towers.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Those numbers really paint a picture of the sheer scale of their operation.
Yeah, they're a major player.
Yeah.
And it's not just about quantity.
Right.
They're also involved in high-power infrastructure projects.
Okay.
They provide services for substations up to 765 kV.
It's serious voltage level.
It is.
Yeah.
Now, let's shift gears a little bit
Okay.
and talk about their financials and projections.
Right.
Their revenue from services has jumped 70.63% year over year.
That's huge growth.
It is, but is it sustainable?
Yeah. What if demand slows down?
Exactly. So let's take a look at their order book
Okay.
for some clues.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely packed with projects.
So they've got a lot coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, a healthy pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
And here's a really surprising detail. 99.99% of their unexecuted order book as of June 30, 2024, comes from international projects.
Wow.
So that heavy international focus, it's kind of a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah, how so?
Well, on one hand, it diversifies their revenue streams.
Right.
But on the other hand, it exposes them to currency fluctuations, political instability in certain regions,
Yeah, and potentially even tougher competition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to support all this growth, they're planning to invest in expanding their manufacturing facilities.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Increasing their production capacity could help them manage some of those risks, right? Like
Yeah.
supply chain disruptions or price volatility.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so now let's dive into the market landscape a little bit. The power transmission and distribution sector in India, it's booming,
Mm-hmm.
driven by a perfect storm of factors, really.
What kind of factors?
Well, rising electricity demand,
Okay.
a massive push for renewable energy integration,
Right.
and supportive government initiatives,
Mm.
for infrastructure development.
India's energy landscape's going through a major transformation.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's a huge opportunity for companies like Transrail.
But it also comes with unique challenges, I imagine.
It does.
Yeah.
The Crystal report actually highlights just how big this opportunity is.
Okay.
India has planned an estimated 3 trillion rupees for transmission
Okay.
and 3 to 4 trillion rupees for distribution between the fiscal years 2025 and 2029.
That is a staggering amount of investment.
It is.
So it's clear that this is a market with immense growth potential.
Yeah.
But what are some of the specific challenges that they'll face?
Well, one of the biggest is that integrating renewable energy sources into the grid.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
There's some big challenges related to grid stability
Right.
and the logistics of evacuating power from remote areas
Okay.
where renewable energy projects are often located.
So they'll need to come up with innovative solutions to address those grid integration challenges.
Absolutely. All right, so let's move on to the competitive landscape.
Okay.
Transrail faces competition both domestically and internationally.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the big players they're up against
Uh.
include KEC International Limited, Calpataro Power Transmission Limited, and Skipper Limited.
So it's important to understand how Transrail stacks up against these competitors.
Right.
What are their strengths and weaknesses?
Exactly.
What differentiates them in the market?
That's what we want to find out.
Yeah.
When we compare their financials,
Okay.
we see that their revenue growth has been really impressive,
Mm-hmm.
but their profitability margins
Okay.
might be a little bit lower than some of their competitors.
Interesting. Why might that be?
Right. That their pricing strategy,
Mm-hmm.
operational efficiency,
Right.
something else.
Yeah, that's a key question.
It is.
It's one thing to grow rapidly,
Mm-hmm.
but it's another thing to do so profitably.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see how they address that.
Definitely. Another layer of complexity comes from the bidding process in this market.
Okay.
It relies heavily on securing government tenders,
Mm-hmm.
especially in India,
Yeah.
where 88% of Transrail's revenue came from such tenders
Okay.
for the 6 months ended September 30, 2023.
So relying so heavily on government contracts can be risky?
It can.
Yeah.
Policy changes,
Right.
delays in project approvals,
Mm-hmm.
even political shifts could significantly impact their business.
It's definitely something to keep in mind.
It is.
Yeah.
And speaking of risks,
Okay.
let's not forget the challenges of international operations,
Right.
currency fluctuations,
Mm.
political instability in some regions,
Right.
navigating all those different regulatory frameworks.
Managing those international risks effectively will be critical to their success.
Yeah.
They'll need a deep understanding of local markets,
Mm-hmm.
strong relationships with stakeholders,
Absolutely.
and robust risk mitigation strategies.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
And let's not overlook their reliance on third-party suppliers
Right.
for raw materials.
Yeah, supply chain disruptions,
Mhm.
price volatility,
Yeah.
even quality issues with raw materials can significantly impact their operations.
Absolutely.
Supply chain management is more critical than ever
It is.
in today's globalized economy.
Right.
Transrail needs to ensure they have reliable suppliers,
Mm-hmm.
diversified sourcing strategies,
Great.
and maybe even consider vertical integration to gain more control over their supply chain.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And finally,
me too.
let's not just brush over their contingent liabilities and pending legal cases.
Right. It's important to understand the potential impact of these liabilities.
It is.
Yeah. Could they lead to financial penalties,
Mm-hmm.
reputational damage,
Right.
or even affect their ability to secure future projects?
All valid points.
Yeah,
So we've covered a lot of ground here,
we have.
from Transrail's origins and business model to the market dynamics,
Mm-hmm.
competition, and potential risks they face.
Yeah, it's a complex picture.
It is.
But hopefully this deep dive is giving you a clearer understanding of this company and its place in the power transmission and distribution sector.
Hopefully.
We've really just started scratching the surface.
Yeah.
But I think we've uncovered some key insights that will help you delve deeper into Transrail and their future prospects.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And we've got more to unpack.
Okay.
Let's move on to how Transrail is positioned within the larger trends
Okay.
affecting the power transmission and distribution sector.
Sounds good. So one of the biggest trends is this global shift towards renewable energy. And India is really leading the charge here.
They really seem to be.
Yeah.
It's
The Crissell report actually breaks down
okay.
some of the key initiatives that are driving this transition.
That's what I find so fascinating about these deep dives. It's
Yeah.
not just about understanding one company,
Right.
but how they fit into this much larger
Mm-hmm.
story of energy transformation.
Exactly.
What stood out to you from the report?
Well, one of the key drivers is the national tariff policy,
Okay.
which is designed to promote renewable energy sources.
Okay.
It includes things like preferential tariffs and grid integration support
Okay.
to make renewable energy more attractive to producers and consumers.
So they're not just setting targets, they're
Mhm.
creating the market conditions to make those targets achievable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, how are they making sure that these renewable sources are actually being used?
That's where the renewable purchase obligation regulations come in.
Okay.
They mandate that certain entities, like distribution companies, have to buy a specific percentage of their electricity from renewable sources.
Oh, so it's like a built-in demand driver.
Exactly.
It forces the industry to move away from traditional fossil fuels
Right?
and embrace cleaner alternatives.
Yeah.
And they're also investing heavily in infrastructure
They are.
to support this transition.
Like what?
Well, for example, the Green Energy Corridors initiative
Okay.
is specifically designed to transmit power from renewable energy projects, which are often located in remote areas, to the main grid.
That makes sense. You
Yeah.
can't just generate the power.
Right.
You need a way to get it to the people who need it.
Right.
These corridors must be a massive undertaking.
They are.
But they're absolutely essential to overcome one of the biggest challenges of renewable energy integration.
Which is?
The distance between where the power is generated and where it's consumed.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
It's interesting how Transrail's global reach ties into this.
Okay.
The Crystal report mentions significant international growth opportunities,
Right.
particularly in Africa,
Mm-hmm.
where access to electricity is limited and the demand for power infrastructure is huge.
That's where Transrail's experience operating in diverse and challenging environments could give them an edge.
Right.
They've already proven they can adapt to different markets.
But it's not just about replicating what they're doing in India, right? The African market might require more decentralized and off-grid solutions.
Absolutely. It's a different context,
Yeah.
and they'll need to be flexible and innovative
Right.
to meet the specific needs of each region.
And on top of geographical expansion, there's the whole technological evolution
Right.
happening within the sector.
Yeah.
What are some of the advancements shaping power transmission and distribution?
Well, one area that's gaining traction is high-performance conductors.
Okay.
These conductors, like high-temperature and high-temperature low-sag varieties, can increase the capacity of existing transmission lines without requiring major modifications.
So it's about doing more with what you already have.
Exactly.
That sounds pretty cost-effective.
It is. Upgrading or reconductoring existing lines with these advanced materials can be much more economical than building entirely new transmission infrastructure.
It sounds like there's a lot of potential for Transrail to grow and innovate,
Yeah.
both in India and internationally.
Yeah.
But of course, we also need to be realistic about the risks and challenges.
Absolutely. And the Crystal report doesn't shy away from those.
Right.
We've already talked about their dependence on government tenders, especially in India,
Right.
and the inherent risks of international operations. But there are other factors to consider.
Like their reliance on third-party suppliers.
Exactly. Supply chain disruptions can have a ripple effect,
Yeah.
impacting project timelines and costs.
Right.
They need to have robust strategies in place to mitigate those risks.
And then there are the broader industry trends that could impact them, like the growing complexity of integrating renewable energy sources into the grid.
That's a huge one.
It is.
Yeah, the report talks about how renewable energy sources like solar and wind power are inherently intermittent.
Okay.
Their power output fluctuates depending on weather conditions,
Right.
which can create challenges for grid stability and reliability.
So it's not just about building more transmission lines. It's about building smarter grids that can handle these fluctuations.
Exactly.
And that's where grid modernization and smart grid technologies come into play.
Right, they enable better management of these fluctuations and ensure a smooth flow of power from diverse sources.
It sounds like the grid itself needs to become more flexible and adaptable.
It does.
What about areas where traditional grid access is limited?
Yeah.
Is there a solution for those communities?
The report actually mentions microgrids as a potential solution for those situations.
Okay.
These are localized grids that can operate independently,
Interesting.
providing power resilience and supporting the integration of distributed renewable energy sources.
So instead of relying solely on a centralized grid,
Right.
you create smaller, self-sufficient grids that can serve specific areas.
Exactly.
That's pretty innovative.
It is.
Yeah.
Microgrids are especially interesting for remote communities or areas with unreliable grid infrastructure. They offer greater energy independence and can play a key role in rural electrification efforts.
It seems like the power transmission and distribution sector is really at a turning point.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
The shift towards renewable energy sources, coupled with all these technological advancements, is reshaping the entire industry.
And while the Cresswell report focuses primarily on the Indian market,
Right?
it acknowledges the global context
It does.
and the broader trends happening worldwide. The demand for power infrastructure is growing globally.
It is.
Yeah.
Driven by economic growth, population growth, and the need for more reliable and sustainable energy sources.
So it's not just an Indian story.
Right.
It's a global story that Transrail is part of.
Exactly.
What other global trends are they keeping an eye on?
Well, one trend that's gaining momentum is the development of cross-border interconnection projects.
Okay.
These projects enable the sharing of power resources and enhance grid stability across regions.
So instead of each country trying to go it alone,
Right.
they're starting to connect their grids and cooperate on energy solutions.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially as the world moves towards more renewable sources that can be geographically dispersed.
It does.
Yeah.
These interconnection projects are becoming more common as countries try to optimize their energy mix and improve energy security.
Right.
It's definitely a trend that Transrail, with its international experience, could potentially capitalize on.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see how all these pieces fit together.
It is.
We've got Transrail,
Right.
this ambitious company with global aspirations,
Mm-hmm.
operating within a rapidly evolving sector.
Yeah.
It's being shaped by technological advancements, policy shifts, and global trends.
It's a dynamic and complex landscape.
It is.
And as we move forward, it's crucial to keep a close eye on those risks and challenges we discussed earlier.
Mm-hmm.
The regulatory landscape, supply chain dynamics, and the complexities of international operations will all continue to be key factors for Transrail.
Well said.
Thanks.
Now, before we jump into the final part of this deep dive,
Okay.
I'm curious to learn more about Transrail's internal structure and corporate governance.
Oh.
Do the sources shed any light on how they operate as an organization?
Actually, the draft Red Herring Prospectus does offer some insights into their corporate governance practices.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
What kind of information does it reveal?
Well, for instance, it outlines the composition of their board of directors.
Okay.
As of the date of the document, the board includes a mix of executive directors, non-executive directors, and independent directors.
That's good to see.
Yeah.
Having a diverse board with a range of perspectives can lead to more balanced decision-making and better oversight.
Absolutely.
What else does it tell us about their governance structure?
It mentions they have several board committees in place,
Oh.
like the Audit Committee, the Nomination and Remuneration Committee, and the Stakeholders Relationship Committee.
Okay.
These committees play an important role in ensuring transparency, accountability, and responsible corporate governance.
It sounds like they're taking a structured approach to governance.
Yeah.
Each committee provides oversight and guidance
Right. Yeah.
on these key aspects of the company's operations.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any specifics about their approach to transparency?
Yes. The document also touches on their policies regarding related party transactions, which is something investors always scrutinize closely.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Transparency in related party transactions is crucial for maintaining investor confidence
Absolutely.
and ensuring that decisions are made in the best interests of all shareholders, not just a select few.
Right.
It's interesting to see they have a formal whistleblower policy in place.
They do.
Yeah.
This policy encourages employees to report any unethical or illegal activities without fear of retaliation.
That's encouraging.
Yeah, it is.
Such policies are vital for fostering a culture of ethical conduct and accountability within an organization.
Absolutely.
It sends a clear signal that they're committed to doing things the right way.
It does.
While we don't have direct insights into their company culture from these sources, we can infer some aspects based on their actions and track record.
We can, yeah.
Actions often speak louder than words.
Absolutely.
So what can we glean from their past performance?
Well, one thing that stands out is their commitment to safety.
Okay.
They've constructed a significant number of transmission and distribution lines,
Right.
and their safety record is commendable.
Yeah, absolutely.
It suggests they prioritize the well-being of their employees and contractors.
A strong safety record is a good indicator of a company's overall approach to risk management and responsibility.
I agree.
What else?
Another aspect we can infer is their focus on quality.
Okay.
They operate in a highly technical field where delivering high-quality infrastructure is paramount.
Right.
Their ability to secure projects from reputable clients, both in India and internationally, speaks to their commitment to quality and their ability to meet stringent standards.
And their investment in an in-house tower testing facility
Yes.
really reinforces their emphasis on quality control. It's a significant investment that demonstrates they take pride in their work and want to ensure their products meet the highest standards.
It's these underlying values and principles that ultimately shape a company's reputation and determine its long-term sustainability.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Transrail Lighting Limited, it feels like we've gained a well-rounded understanding of the company. their position in the market, and the exciting but complex industry they operate in.
I think so too.
Yeah, we've explored their origins, their business model, their financials, the competitive landscape, the risks they face, and even got a glimpse into their corporate governance and the values that drive them.
We really have covered a lot.
We have.
And while no deep dive can ever be truly exhaustive,
Of course not.
I believe we've equipped you with the essential knowledge and insights to continue exploring Transrail Lighting Limited on your own.
Exactly. As always, we encourage you to keep digging deeper
Yeah.
into the aspects that pique your interest. Examine their financials in detail.
Right.
Research their ongoing projects.
Mm-hmm.
And consider how the trends we discussed might influence their future trajectory.
The world of power transmission and distribution is in constant flux.
It is.
Yeah, driven by innovation, policy changes, and global shifts in energy production and consumption.
Right.
Staying informed and engaged is key.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure taking this deep dive with you.
The pleasure was all mine.
We hope you found it valuable and insightful.
Until next time.